Hi, everyone. This is Raquel.
Hi, and this is Jennifer.
Welcome to Madness Cafe.
This is a feminist podcast where we talk about women's issues, politics, and health and wellness.
And where those issues intersect. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Madness Cafe. Thank you so much for joining us again. Today is going to be a difficult topic. The world is a difficult place, so difficult conversations have to happen from time to time. And today's topic is about, is seeking asylum a human right? As we all know, hopefully by the time this airs, hopefully this will be over, but sadly I don't think it will be. But right now, as of the taping of this particular episode, Russia has invaded Ukraine, and there is an incredible amount of turmoil and strife and pain and violence being inflicted upon the people of Ukraine by Putin and his government. This is nothing against the Russian people, because I do believe there are plenty of Russians who don't want this, who don't want to attack anyone. So this is not anything against Russians. This is Putin and his army and his machine, and they are inflicting violence and strife on the people of Ukraine. All, in my opinion, to just feed his ego. But so, having said that, Jennifer and I wanted to discuss all of this, but we think it's important to go into some detail about what the different terms mean, because I think people tend to use them interchangeably from time to time, and there is some difference to the terms, and the terms are refugee, asylum seeker, and migrant. So this is information that I pulled from Amnesty International. Please bear with me. This is a little bit of a long introduction, but like Jennifer and I were talking before we hit record, we think it's important to get this information out there and to at least start at the same, so that we're all on the same page and we all are working from the same definitions. So according to Amnesty International, and again, as I do all the time, we'll link to all of this in the show notes for people who want to delve into this further, who want to do their own research, who want to look into it some more. So, as stated by Amnesty International, the terms refugee, asylum seeker, and migrant are used to describe people who are on the move, who have left their countries and have crossed borders. The terms migrant and refugee are often used interchangeably, but it is important to distinguish between them as there is a legal difference. Who is a refugee? A refugee is a person who has fled their own country because they are at risk of serious human rights violations and persecution there. The risks to their safety and life were so great that they felt they had no choice but to leave and seek safety outside their country because their own government cannot or will not protect them from these dangers. Refugees have a right to international protection. Who is an asylum seeker? An asylum seeker is a person who has left their country and is seeking protection from persecution and serious human rights violations in another country, but who hasn't yet been legally recognized as a refugee and is waiting to receive a decision on their asylum claim. Seeking asylum is a human right. This means everyone should be allowed to enter another country to seek asylum. Who is a migrant? There is no internationally accepted legal definition of a migrant. Like most agencies and organizations, those at Amnesty International understand migrants to be people staying outside their country of origin who are not asylum seekers or refugees. Some migrants leave their country because they want to work, study, or join family, for example. Others feel they must leave because of poverty, political unrest, gang violence, natural disasters, or other serious circumstances that exist there. The rights of migrants, refugees, and asylum seekers are protected by international law, regardless of how and why they arrive in a country. They have the same rights as everyone else, plus special or specific protections, including the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, specifically Article 14, which states that everyone has the right to seek and enjoy asylum from persecution in other countries. Also, the 1951 UN Refugee Convention and its 1967 protocol, which protects refugees from being returned to countries where they risk being persecuted, and the 1990 Migrant Workers Convention, which protects migrants and their families. That's just a starting point. That's just an overview. That list of laws protecting migrants, refugees, and asylum seekers is not an exhaustive list. There are others, but this is just a starting point. So, having said that, here we go.
Well done.
Thank you.
So I've been following the news like a lot of people have, and within 7 days of the war, there were already 1 million refugees, half of which were children.
Mhm.
And now they're at 1,360,000, and they're estimating that we may have from the Ukraine 4 million in total before this. Yeah, 4 million in total.
That's so sad. And they're
It's
leaving behind
everything.
family members because the men who what is the age range? I believe it's 16 to 60. Those men are not being allowed to leave because they're being, well, quote unquote, asked, required, however you want to term it, to stay and
Soldiers
help
now.
protect their country.
Yeah.
And from what I've seen on the news, there's also a number of women who have decided to stay behind to help protect their country as well.
Yes.
So there are loved ones who are being left behind.
And groups of women I've seen on the news that are staying behind not to fight, but to feed the soldiers. There's
Mhm.
whole groups like gathering together, creating huge meals, inviting people in. They're not leaving either. They're staying to support the war effort.
Mhm. Mhm.
Incredible.
Yes, and I heard a story about a woman who sent her child with a friend of hers and that friend's child to go away to try to find safety.
It's heartbreaking.
I can't imagine that. I mean, I love people. I have people in my life that I love, and I can't imagine sending them away
Not
in
knowing.
their protection, not knowing if I will ever see them again.
Yeah. And for some of those people, they won't see each other again.
Yeah. All of this all of this is being, and I laugh not because it's funny, I laugh out of just how in just absurd and ridiculous Putin is, that he's doing this because some ego trip.
Why do you think it's ego?
I think it's ego because he wants to be an all-consuming ruler. He wants to be seen as the strongest man in the room. And this is how he believes that will happen.
Mhm. And what do you think of all the sanctions that the world has decided to hold against Russia?
I think they're necessary, if nothing else, to show that people are not, and countries specifically are not going to just stand by and let him run roughshod over another country just because he wants to have them under his control.
That's what he's doing.
Um, yeah, yeah, but I think if if the sanctions weren't there, then he would just see it as a mandate, and he would just see it as, well, of course I can do this. Nobody's going to stop me. And then what? Even even Switzerland is jumping into the fray in their way by saying this is not okay.
Sort of unheard of.
Yeah, yeah, it's very much unheard of. One of the things that I keep hearing when they're talking on the news about the sanctions is that they're trying as much as possible to direct the sanctions at Putin and the Russian government and not the Russian people,
Mhm.
because they don't want the Russian people to suffer for the misdeeds of their leader. I think that's an important thing to think about and to keep in mind. I wish I knew enough about international politics to know if that's been done before, but
I think there's a lot of unprecedented things that are happening here. There is a more humanitarian approach to
mhm,
handling Putin. I think that's something we haven't seen in other wars that continue to
mhm,
plague the world at the
mhm,
moment. But let's
mhm,
get back to this idea of refugees. I saw on the news today many clips of other countries, surrounding countries, not only opening up their borders and letting these refugees in, but doing extraordinary measures like setting up camps with food and cots and an area of warming stations so that people can make plans, but then also thousands of families with signs saying, I have one room, I can take on
mhm,
a family of four, I can just families coming out of the woodwork to offer shelter to these
right.
refugees. And I don't think we've ever seen anything quite like that before.
Yeah, I don't think we have either. And another thing that I've been seeing online is people saying that they are calling countries surrounding Ukraine and finding Airbnbs that are specifically run just by a person, not run by a company or some sort of organization, but by a person, and saying, I want to rent this Airbnb for however much time, and then renting it, and then saying, this is available specifically for people who are fleeing Ukraine and need somewhere to stay for a few days to sort of gather themselves and have some respite. And I think that is amazing. I don't have numbers of how many people have done that yet, but the fact that that is an option is is amazing.
That's the power of the internet, of technology, of people thinking outside the box for creative
Mhm,
ways to help one another and
mhm,
showing that actual people do have some power. That, okay, we can't stop the government, but we can find unique ways. This is a very unique way.
mhm,
A
mhm.
unique ways to support families when we're here in the US, sending money that way rather than via a charity that we're unsure. A lot of times people are unsure
Yeah.
if the money is even gonna reach the people in need.
Mhm,
People
mhm.
generally send anyway, but they're like, I just don't know about this."
Yeah, well, people wanna know that their efforts are actually reaching the people that need it.
The right people.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, you're spot on. I mean, this is very much thinking outside the box,
Yeah.
and this gives people a way to feel like they're making a difference.
Yeah, and they are. They're getting money into the hands of the right people that can
Mhm,
make a difference, maybe one-on-one, one Airbnb to one family, but
mhm,
that's a difference. That's a boots on the ground difference that affects the life of one family.
mhm,
I
mhm.
think that's pretty amazing. Whoever thought of that is a genius.
That's pretty amazing.
So one of the things that concerns me about the whole subject of refugees in general, and the thing
Mhm,
that has been tearing at my heart for years and years, and I'm sure a lot of people feel this way, is that the majority of refugees are women and children.
mhm.
Children, 50% of refugees, which really leaves them open to be exploited
Mhm.
in many ways, work exploitation, but
Yep.
as we all know, there's a lot of human trafficking still going on these days with children and I don't even want to say it because it just makes me sick to my stomach, but there's sexual exploitation of children. And
Right.
being a refugee puts you at huge risk, huge risk.
Mhm.
I wonder in this case, because there's so much outpouring of love and support and people at the borders, if maybe these kids are at less risk than normal.
That's an interesting point. You know what? I don't know.
If you think about our own borders, there's a huge percentage of those refugees, non-refugees, a huge percentage that are children that are unaccompanied by an adult.
Right.
When we had that huge thing, the border crisis where families were being separated, a lot of those kids disappeared.
Mhm.
And my mind went to those kids were stolen. They didn't disappear. We can track anything in this country. Come on. If we wanted to know where those kids are, I really believe we would have found them, which
Yeah.
makes me think those kids were stolen and those kids were sold. Maybe the little ones were sold to, this is me talking crap. So there's no fact in this. This is just my head. I want to put this out there. I've not done any research. I don't know. This is just my head, but those families being separated, babies disappearing, US families that are willing to pay top dollar to get a baby, right?
Mhm.
To have a baby,
Mhm.
to raise a baby, thinking, oh, well, I'm taking this baby out of poverty. This is the right thing to do.
Mhm.
Questionable. But then also older kids just being stolen and moving into this sex trafficking
Right.
world. Like, I
Right.
really believe that that's what happened because
Right.
still to this day, they're not finding some of these
Mhm.
kids.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it would be really naive to say that that didn't happen because I do believe, sadly, that I'm sure that that has happened many times over in the situation with our southern border. I'm sure it has.
The thing with that is there has to be a customer.
Oh, of course, and there always will be. And I know that makes me sound awful and cynical and
Doesn't make you sound
pessimistic.
awful, it makes the customer sound awful,
Well, right, right. But
beyond awful.
I think that market is always going to be there,
Why?
unfortunately, because there's an element of evil everywhere, unfortunately.
Is it evil?
Um,
Evil. I struggle with that. What is it?
yeah.
Anyway, all right, that's too much about
Well,
that topic.
well, it's interesting that you bring up the issue at the US's southern border in the context of us talking about what's going on in Ukraine because you hear, kind of grumblings, reading between the lines of people thinking, well, why is Ukraine getting so much attention? Why is there all this attention on people fleeing Ukraine at this moment? There are a couple of reasons why this particular situation it, there's a lot of reasons, but there are a few uh,
Just say it, Raquel. Just
reasons.
say it.
I know. I'm trying to be so diplomatic. God.
Quit being
Uh,
diplomat. Put it out
I
there.
I
It's
know. So
fucked up.
one reason is because it's Europe,
Right.
and because we've already had 2 world wars that started in Europe. And so people are very, 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 very worried about what could happen this time
Mhm.
because
Rightly so.
there's a whole other level of might and weaponry and crazy and all the things that didn't exist in the Second World War or in the First World War.
Mhm.
So people are very concerned, and we don't. And ever since the Second World War, you hear countries say, "Never again. We'll never let this happen again." Well, here's their chance to actually back that up. Those are two of the main reasons why this is getting so much attention right now.
Mhm.
And well, and the third one, because it's Putin, because he is a world leader. As
Yeah.
whether we want to admit that, whether we're happy about that or not, the man is a world leader. And he is not the most benevolent, kind
Kind? He's not the kindest.
person.
So that's why I asked you that question about ego, because is he a man driven by his ego or is he just fucking insane? Because I tend to think maybe he's just a crazy motherfucker with his finger on the button.
I think it's both. I really
Okay.
do. I honestly do, because I think that when there's that level of insanity of I can do whatever the hell I want, whenever I want, there has to be ego in there. It
True.
is, I think it is a hyper inflated sense of ego.
Of righteousness, of I
Oh,
can do
yeah.
this. Maybe he doesn't even know if he can do it. He just wants to try it.
Oh, he no, he knows. I think he knows.
Yeah.
And so he's just pushing all the boundaries now
All right. I
because
don't
he
care
doesn't
about
think
him.
anybody's gonna push back.
I don't care about him. I mean, I
Okay.
do, but this conversation is about the refugees. Why has there been in Europe for these people? And I'm not saying there should be. I am grateful that people are reaching out and helping these people
Mhm,
because
mhm.
they deserve it. They need it. I'm a humanitarian. I believe that we should love one another. Grateful that that is happening. But why is it different than we see with other refugees? Is the question I'm asking.
It's it's color. I hate to say it, but it's color. I mean, we see it in the situation in Ukraine with
You're talking about the color of our skin means that our
yes,
refugees are being treated differently
yes,
based on the color of their skin.
yes, yes, because there are a vast number of people living in Ukraine who are from Africa, whether they're there for school or they moved there for a job or they married somebody and moved there or just moved there because they thought, hey, let me move there. Whatever the reason, they're there. And that's their home now, or it was until they got forced out of it by
Putin.
by Putin. I think all of us have seen the news footage and have read stories where you've seen that there's Black Ukrainians who were shoved away and were not allowed to get on those trains or the buses, or African women were allowed to get on, but only at the very end. And only because they were women, the men were not allowed to get on, or Arabic men, or Indian men, or whoever. They only allowed the women on, but only at the very end, and they were treated like third class citizens, not even second class, but third class citizens. I looked on the website Global Citizen, and what they said was here's a quote from them. It says, with millions of citizens in Ukraine fleeing the country after Russia initiated a deadly attack on February 24th, there have been increasing reports of racism against Black people in Ukraine as they try to leave the country. The hashtag Africans in Ukraine is being used on Twitter to highlight cases of racial injustice and to highlight the ways that Black people are being left behind in the rush to flee danger. According to the Irish Times, an estimated 20% of Ukrainian students are African. Morocco, Nigeria, and Egypt are among the top 10 countries with foreign students in Ukraine. And it was African activists who initially started the hashtag Africans in Ukraine hashtag to bring awareness to the issue of racism and discrimination. Since the hashtag was started, videos and images of Black and African citizens being denied evacuation from Ukraine have flooded global social media timelines. So, yes, it is the color of their skin that has had some effect. There was also a quote from the Prime Minister of Bulgaria.
This is a beauty.
Yeah, oh, this is lovely. This is lovely.
Mhm.
He says, quote, and this is from the AP News, Associated Press News. Quote, these are not the refugees we are used to. These people are Europeans. Bulgarian Prime Minister Kirill Petkov told journalists earlier this week of the Ukrainians. Of course, we all know he's speaking of white Ukrainians. These people are intelligent, they are educated people. This is not the refugee wave we have been used to. people we were not sure about their identity, people with unclear pasts who could have been even terrorists. Now,
Jesus.
we all know who he's referring to in the first part of that statement and in the second part of that statement. We all know.
Tell us.
Well, in the first part, oh, they're intelligent, they're educated. He's referring to the white Ukrainians. But the
Mhm.
others, the ones that we're not sure about their identity or their pasts, or even if they're terrorists, those are the brown people that he's talking about. The
Yeah.
people from Africa, Morocco, Egypt, all these places where they don't look like white people. That's what he's talking about. The man has said the quiet part out loud and didn't even care.
And didn't blink and didn't think, "Oh,
Did
shit, I
not
shouldn't have said that."
blink. Nope,
Should
not at all.
what if he had said that and went, "Oh my god, that's not what I meant."
Yeah,
Like, then I
well,
would have
then in
been
that
like,
case, fine, we'll cut him a little slack. There's a little room for him to be educated.
but
This man
no.
did not blink. He did not recoil. He did not second
Nope.
guess. He said that shit out loud with gusto.
No, he said, "White people are educated, they're welcome, let's bring them in, let's feed them, let's clothe them, let's make them as comfortable as possible. People of color, they have a shady past, we're not sure where they're from, we're not sure where they're going, they're not educated, we don't trust them, don't let them in."
And they might be terrorists.
Oh,
Because
and they might be terrorists.
only brown people are terrorists.
Not in this country.
Well,
In
yeah,
this country, as far as I can tell, all of our
exactly.
terrorists are little white boys.
Well, there's terrorists everywhere of
Mhm.
every stripe and every color.
Okay. Okay, good point. I was being a little racist
No, no,
myself.
no, I know, but I'm just saying. The man just said the quiet part out loud and didn't even care. Just didn't
Didn't
blink,
even know.
didn't give a damn.
Didn't acknowledge, didn't know,
Nope,
didn't
nope.
like it didn't occur to him like, "Whoa."
Or you know what? Here's the sad or another sad part. Maybe he did know and just didn't give a flying rat's ass. He just said it.
You're right, Raquel, because I'm always one of my main character flaws is that I'm always thinking when someone says stupid shit that somehow they didn't know better. I'm always
Well,
thinking that.
that is not a flaw.
It is a
I
flaw.
I would like to think that that just means that you want to give people the benefit of the doubt. Because I mean, I do that sometimes too.
Maybe I'm tired of giving them the benefit of the doubt. Look at this. Okay. It was what? I took some notes on this myself. It was only just 5 months ago at the US border, our
Mhm.
US border patrol whipped and pushed Haitians back into the river, right?
Yes.
They were at the Rio Grande
Mhm.
trying to cross, trying
Mhm.
to and they had been on a long journey. This wasn't even
Oh
like
yeah.
one border to one border. They had been some of those people had been out there for years,
Yeah. Yeah.
years. And our border patrol on horses, no less,
With whips.
with whips, whipping human beings and pushing them into the river.
And not just human beings, black people.
You're
Black
right.
people. I mean, it literally
Black
just
people, black women, black children, black men, whipping them and
yeah.
pushing them into a river.
I mean, it literally just all you
That was
had to it just it made everybody who had some sense think of, oh, look at this. These are overseers running down their slaves who got away, and they're going to go and get them and bring them back.
that was 5 months ago.
5 months ago. This is, I mean, it is, it's just so
One of the
fucking
things I have
frustrating.
ever been able to get over, ever been able to get over is those images of those kids on our borders in cages
Cages.
and people being like, "Oh, it's a detention center, it's fine." It's not fine. It's
No, it's
not
not fine.
fine.
It's
It's
not
not
fine.
fine.
We're treating people like like fucking animals.
People say things like, "Well, if they really love their children, they wouldn't risk that. They wouldn't travel with them like that. They wouldn't cross borders like that." How do you fucking know? Did you walk one step in their shoes? Do you know what they are faced with on a day-to-day basis?
Right.
Have you ever starved for even 1 second in your life? Because I know I haven't. I have
Yeah,
never hurt for food, not one time in my whole life.
yeah,
So I can't say what it takes to bring your child, to take them away from their home, from their grandparents, from their loved ones, to pack up with maybe 2 pairs of shoes and a backpack
if
on your back.
if that. Think about what people are leaving, why they are choosing this journey. Like, think about what they're fleeing, that they're like, well, let me go ahead and take this journey, even though it's going to be hard as hell and dangerous as fuck. Let me go ahead and do that because that is better than me staying here. They're fleeing violence, they're fleeing persecution, they're fleeing their government. I mean, they're fleeing
Starvation.
starvation. They're trying to get to a better place for their kids or for
Yeah.
themselves.
You would never take your kids unless you were so desperate that you were willing to try just about anything to get them a better future.
Right.
You would never do it.
But people can't see that. But they can see, oh, well, their homeland is being bombed by Putin. So, of course, they're fleeing. Well, come on. Other people are fleeing their countries
Right now.
right now and have been for equally as horrible reasons.
Yeah. I know I've talked about this before, but that's why I follow Choose Love because they
Mhm.
have been following these refugees. And one of the things that one of the founding partners said was she feels almost like dejected because she thought she would get into this work and she thought she would make a difference. And it's not making a difference. People just keep coming and coming and coming and coming. And all they can do is put a band aid on the problem,
Yeah.
feed someone a meal today, get them in a tent tonight. But the problem of refugees coming is not slowing down
No,
be-
it's not.
because people around this world are living in situations that are violent and dangerous. They're starving. They would rather take their children and run
Mhm.
than live what they are forced to live at the moment. And that's millions and millions of people.
Day in and day out, people are fleeing dangerous situations because they want to be safe. Our country is not the only country they're trying to get to. People are
No.
trying to get to Canada. People are
Yeah.
trying to get to Poland. People are trying to get to Greece.
Oh,
People are
yeah.
trying to get to any number of
A
countries.
safe haven, a
A
place where they
safe
think they can have a
haven.
home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
No.
the sad thing is there are situations in place, whether they're laws that are written in crazy ways where people aren't allowed to come in, or they're made to jump through crazy hoops to get
Oh,
in, or it's people just rise up and say, well, I don't want these people here, they're taking jobs. Are they taking jobs that you want? I
mm,
mean, think this shit through.
no.
Let people in. What?
With the people from Haiti, President Biden said the reason they were whipping them on horseback,
Oh,
just take that part out of the picture. But the
yeah.
reason they were denied entry in the country was because of the COVID restrictions. That's what he said.
Well,
And maybe rightly so. Maybe you do restrict some entrance into your country when there is a pandemic going on. It does not mean you beat those people with a whip.
it all goes back to people of color are not seen as human. People of color are not seen on an equal footing as white people
It's not just
around
in
the
the
world.
United States
It
either,
is
is it?
not, it is not just the United States. It even goes beyond people of color. Anybody who has been othered, whether it's because of their skin color, whether it's because of their religion, whether it's because of their sexual orientation or their gender, everybody wants to other somebody else. And if there's a way that they can be othered, there's a way that they can be denied something. And that is at the core of all of the injustices that happen around the world. And even in countries that are seemingly homogenous. You think, oh, well, in say Nigeria, where, oh, everybody's the same. Yeah, but there's always somebody who's going to look down at somebody else. Or China, very homogenous country. But yeah, in China, there's also the same thing. There's always somebody that is going to look down on somebody else. There's always somebody who is othered somehow. And because I'm sorry, I'm getting on my soapbox
No,
right now.
this is good. You're doing it. Tell it.
Because we can't help for some reason to other people, we have to look down on them. It is time immemorial that there is always somebody that's going to be looked down on, and there's the other person who literally and figuratively has their foot on somebody's neck.
Yeah, you know what? It's time to fucking grow up, people. That's
Yeah,
adolescent behavior, childish adolescent fucking behavior. And it's
yeah,
time to grow up. And the leaders of our country, they haven't grown up.
they have not. The leaders of all the countries, they have not grown up. And
We
honestly,
have adolescents running our countries.
you know what I would like to know? And we should do some research on this. This could be a whole other topic for another episode. But I would love to know what matriarchal societies look like. And if there would, we could probably just look to New Zealand. Look at Jacinda Ardern. I mean, she's running New Zealand. She's doing a fantastic job. I would love to meet her and talk to her. And I just want to know.
Let's ask her to be a guest.
I know, right? How is she doing this? How is she making her country not a shit show? Can can we just learn from the women folk, please, Jesus? Can we have more women in power? And because yes, women's ways of leading are so different. And I think we would have far fewer wars and far fewer conflict. And I'm not saying that all women are conflict averse or whatever, but I'm just saying it would be so different. It would just be so different. Oh,
You had a lot to get out there.
I did.
And I'm glad you did. Yes, use your voice. All right, I have another question for you to switch
Okay.
topics.
Okay.
You did a really good job of talking about what is the difference between an asylum seeker and someone who is migrating at the beginning. I've been listening to some podcasts that have to do with Indigenous people and Indigenous struggles.
Mm,
And one of the podcasts I listened to this week talked about, is migration a human right? Because if we're talking about all the way from the very bottom tip of South America, all the way up to the top of Canada,
mhm.
and then we have these borders that were placed in between,
Yeah.
some of our indigenous people have relatives that run the whole gamut, but they
Right.
have to ask permission to enter a country when that wasn't really their natural state of being. There are families that are separated by borders.
Right.
Is migration a human right?
Ooh.
Or should it be? Because we know it's not.
I think it probably should be because we all know industrialization pretty much just ran roughshod over indigenous populations, not just in our country, but in probably every industrialized nation, right?
Sure.
So that the one of the effects of that was that if those indigenous populations were generally migratory in the way that they live their lives according to seasons or whatever, because of industrialization they were no longer allowed to do that.
When the Mexico US border came
Right.
into effect, the people, the families that lived on those borders at that time were allowed to decide, did they want to be Mexicans or did they want to be US Americans?
Right.
Right. And when they made that decision, some family members are on one side of the border, some family members are on the other side of the border. And for a long time, people could go back and forth without too much trouble. Like they
Right.
just did, they did to work. And then come the Trump era, when they really got tough about building that wall and the
Ugh.
wall was going in, families that had been crossing the border just for work all the
Yeah.
time it was stopped, and they
Yeah, I
were
think that's
unable to migrate to see their family.
and I think that's bullshit. I think people should still be if their culture and their heritage and their history was such that cyclical
But
migration was
Trump
part
said
of
they
our
were all
life.
rapists. They were all
Well,
drug pushers and rapists, right?
Trump is a
So
dumbass. I will just go ahead and put that out there. Trump is a
he's
dumbass.
Putin's best friend, right?
Yeah, and they're both dumbasses. Let's just put that out there. They're both assholes and dumbasses and all the other words that I
You know,
would.
Raquel, if we ever get taken over by someone like Trump, you and I are going to jail.
Oh yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
We
yeah.
are going to be locked up.
Oh
We're
yeah,
going to jail,
yeah, yeah. Pretty
or
much.
we'll
Yeah.
just get shot.
Well, and a bunch of our friends will be with us, so it's okay.
It's not that far off.
It's sad. It's sad.
If you think about what's going on right now in the
Mhm.
Ukraine, those people are getting shot.
Yeah.
For people in Russia are trying to stand up against Putin,
Mhm. And
and
they're being put in jail for 15 years.
that's my point. That's my point. If Trump ever took over this country, and he probably would never hear of our little itty bitty podcast, but if he did, you and
Yeah.
I would go to jail
Oh yeah. But
in the
see,
same way.
what I would like to think is that you and I would start an underground resistance, or at least join an underground resistance, and we would fight back. Yes. Yeah. The sad thing is that, yeah, you and I would be part of the persecuted.
Oh, yeah, I know that. And I've read countless articles of people in Russia, people who have high positions saying things and ending up in big trouble because their human rights are being violated as well. They're not allowed to say what they really think and feel. We
Yeah.
have a voice. If nothing else in this country, we do have a voice where someone like you and me can get on a podcast and we can say whatever we want, and we
Yeah.
can put it on Buzzsprouts and send it out to all of these places wherever you get your podcast, and we can put it on YouTube, and nobody's stopping us and nobody's yelling at us. I mean, every once in a while we get someone who disagrees with what we say, which is fine.
Yeah. Because
But the
they have that
government
right.
but the government isn't throwing us in jail because we're saying that Trump and Putin are buddy buddy good friends, and they're both kind of psycho in the head, right?
Yeah, if we were in Russia right now, having said that,
We'd be in prison.
probably within 24 hours, we would be disappeared and we would be in prison for at least 15 years if we survived.
Well, that's what happened in the Holocaust too. People just were disappeared.
Mhm.
Were
Exactly.
gone. They tried to stand up. So you do have a point when you said earlier in this episode, when people said never again, everyone likes to think they're the kind of person that would have been the one that would have stood up and said, you can't take my neighbor.
Yeah.
But when the shit hits the fan, what really happens? I don't know if I could answer that. I don't think any of us can honestly answer it until we're
Yeah.
in that position.
Yeah.
Like, what would you do? We'd all like to think we'd be the zookeeper's wife and figure out how to, you
How to
know,
hide all the people, you
yeah,
know?
we'd all like to think we're that person.
Like I just said, oh, we'd be part of the resistance. I'd like to think that, yeah, I would be part of the resistance.
When I think about that happening, I think about a lot of things, and I think about myself as the type of person I am. I don't have very good skills when it comes to like shooting a gun. I've only shot one twice. I think I would be brave enough. I think I'd be like, okay, I'm going to fight.
Yeah.
But what would freak me out the most is what would happen to my kids.
Yeah.
And that's what these people are faced with. And not just their kids, it's like their grandma, their grandpa, their cousin, their neighbor, the person they work with, the one that they love, their animals, their dogs,
Yeah.
their cats, their
Yeah.
that's what they are actually physically being faced with right now.
I've even heard some of the news stories where people talk about my grandmother survived the Holocaust.
Oh
And
Jesus.
now this is happening. Can you imagine?
No.
I don't know if it is physically possible for me to imagine what that woman is going through right now.
That woman is thinking, what the fuck?
Right? She's like, again with this shit. We talked earlier about how there are people who have decided to stay behind. There are women who decided to stay behind to help cook, and they're learning how to defend themselves, and they're learning how to shoot guns. And there are some women and some older women who are staying behind, and they're making Molotov cocktails. They're doing what they can.
I think you do what you can. I
Yeah.
think people do, and some of those people have to leave because some of those people have to take those children and carry on.
Mhm.
Like the woman you said gave her child to someone else. Cannot imagine the anguish of that, to hand your child over to someone you trust and say, "Take my kid. You must raise my child as yours now."
At least in this day and age, there's social media, there's cell phones. So you can at least hopefully
If they
that
survive,
they can exactly, that's what I
if they
mean. Dear
survive.
God, if they survive, they can still see their loved one
Yeah.
somehow. Dear God, please. And
And
World
that's
War
why I say
II.
those kids at the border could have been connected back with their family.
Oh,
That's why I
absolutely.
say that, because we could have found those families.
Oh, absolutely.
We didn't want to because we stole those children and we sold them.
Yeah, because we didn't care. We didn't care.
I fucking cared.
Well, yeah, you and I cared. Yes, cared. They were not a priority because they are brown.
Because they're brown and they're poor.
And they're yeah, yeah.
They come from these poor countries and they have no power when they cross the border and they take a baby out of the mother's arms. She has no power to say anything.
Mhm.
There's nothing she can do. There's two dudes holding her back.
I do wanna make one point because this popped into my head about the whole, we didn't care because they're brown, blah, blah, blah. Yes, all that shit is true. Part of the laws and things about asylum seekers, refugees, and migrants, those came out of World War II because there were so many countries that would not take in any Jewish refugees who were trying to flee Germany, Austria, Poland, Hungary, trying to get away from what they knew was coming. There were so many
Yeah.
countries who either wouldn't take any of them or would only take some minuscule number of people. It wasn't just little brown babies or brown men and women. In recent memory, it was also Jewish people. Like I
Yeah.
said, anybody who could be othered has met with discrimination and bullshit and tomfuckery, and it drives me crazy, and it
Yeah.
breaks my heart, and it pisses me off because it is not fair. We are all people, we are all human, and we are all deserving of safety and freedom from persecution.
We should all be guaranteed the same basic human rights.
Yes, and safety should be one of those basic human rights, but that gets doled out and prioritized based on some arbitrary bullshit.
Stuff that makes no sense. I read another story that really stuck with me, and I think it bears mentioning that the trans people in the Ukraine are having trouble
Oh,
evacuating because their passports don't match their appearance,
mhm. Jeez.
even though those are who those people are. And that, in my opinion, is another way they know that that's that person. They're
Yeah,
just choosing not to help
yeah,
because they don't want to.
yeah,
That's a choice not to help, maybe because they think it's wrong or something, I don't know. But so our trans relatives, people, loved ones
yeah,
are also having trouble.
yeah, yeah, because they've been othered.
Yeah. What happened with that? There was a time period where people who were trans were extra special because they held the qualities of both genders, because they were able to see more, to feel more. And now we've pushed them into this status of they're not good enough. Like what the hell happened?
Well, I think it had a lot to do with victors coming in
Oh yes, yeah.
and running roughshod over
Colonialism.
indigenous peoples who were more accepting of people who were different and people
Not
who
even more
were
accepting. They were
inferior.
revered. They were like people who saw two ways.
Mhm.
They knew more.
So it was bulldozed over because that didn't stand up or equate with Christian patriarchy,
The damn patriarchy. Once again, the patriarch.
right? Smash the fucking patriarchy, damn it. So what do we do? Right? Because I know there's people who are probably listening going, okay, y'all are saying all the things that we all say all the time. Because I'm sure most of our listeners are like, yeah, okay, we agree with you. We agree with you. What do we do? Well, shit.
What do? We speak out when we
Yeah,
see injustice, when we say, "Hey, there's a difference." Like, we're not saying that we don't think these refugees deserve love and support and kindness and shelter. What we're saying
exactly.
is that all refugees deserve those things.
Yes, amen.
So, I think when we see these things happening, we have to speak out. We have to have a podcast like this where we can say, war sucks, but
Hmm.
it doesn't just suck in the Ukraine. It sucks in all these countries that are
Hmm.
still at war, Syria
Yeah,
and others that we don't even talk about.
right.
Like, war is going on right now,
I would dare say that pretty much any day you can pick a country somewhere that is experiencing war.
or famine or drought or
Yeah.
starvation. It's right back to what we were talking about way before. We have enough food to feed everybody.
Hmm.
What do we do?
But
What do we
we
do?
can't get it to everybody.
Ah,
Well, we're not. No, no, no. We can. We're not allowed to.
no, we're not allowed to. What can we do is continue to support organizations
Hmm.
that are supporting people.
Yeah.
Have really cool ideas like this idea to send money to the Airbnbs in the surrounding areas. That was a really cool, thoughtful approach. If you can take in a refugee or their family, take them in. Not everyone can do that. If you can
Absolutely.
feed someone, feed them. It could be someone in your own community. Um,
Exactly. If you think, oh, I'm just one person, what can I do? I don't have a lot of money. Okay, you can give of your time. You can call your elected officials. You can write letters. If you really, really want to do the Airbnb thing, you can get together with some of your friends and be like, okay, I can get some people together, pool that money. You can resist. Think of something else. Y'all are creative, innovative people.
when the
Think of something.
politicians say something stupid, put them on the news and call them out. When
Yeah,
somebody on your
call them
social
out.
media who's a friend of yours says something that's racist, say, "Hey, I don't know if you're aware of this because maybe they just goofed. That sounded kind of racist to me. That sounded like you got some bias there that you're unaware of." Call people out in a kind, nice way.
Yeah. Sometimes it'll just take a conversation.
What you and I decided to do, along with the book club,
Mm,
way back when the whole thing with George Floyd happened,
mm,
we all decided at that point, and maybe our head was in the sand before then, who knows or who cares at this point. We all made a conscious decision, all the people who've joined that club, to learn
mhm.
about the world, to learn about our history, to do something, to say something, to at the very least just change our own minds.
Yep,
That's what
yep,
we can do, Raquel. It goes back to that. When one of us heals, we all heal.
yeah. Challenge what you currently believe.
And we got to quit
And
electing people like Putin and Trump.
it starts at the very bottom. Like, look at who's running for your school board. It starts local. Pay attention to whoever are the leaders are in your community. Who are the ones who are getting all of the attention and who are the ones who aren't?
What about like this whole movement towards like anti-racist children, like raising our kids to
Hmm.
think critically, to talk through things? I don't have all the answers. Sometimes I go to my kids and I'm like, "Tell me." There
Yeah.
have been times where they've been like, "Mom, that's kind of some jaded old-fashioned thinking." And my things are more in regard to like, oh, I have a really great example. Yesterday I went to pick up some sandwiches at a
Hmm.
restaurant, a bar actually, and I was wearing kind of a low-cut shirt, and my niece said, "Go get it, girl. Go get us some free sandwiches," right? This is funny. So I went to the bar and I picked up my sandwiches and I didn't give it any thought because I was just keep picking up the sandwiches. And I got home and she goes, "Did you get us free sandwiches?" And I said, "No, there were women working there." And she said,
Okay.
"Right." She
Yep.
said, "Come on, you don't know. You don't know
It's
what their
true.
sexual orientation is. They might have been into your low cut shirt too." Also, my niece is married to a woman. That was kind of a fuck up on my part, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
I'm not beating myself up. I'm not like, "Oh, you're a jerk." "Oh, you learned something here." The
Exactly.
world is not 100% heterosexual. There is a different viewpoint other
Mhm.
than your own.
Well, and the cool thing is that you were like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, I was an asshole.
You looked at it from a different perspective. We're like, "Oh, okay, let me learn from this." Not, "I'm the worst person in the world." Or you weren't like extra defensive.
My kids call me out a lot. I will say something and they'll be like, not quite right there, mom." And I listen to them and I say, "Why? Tell me why." Because they know things I don't know about because I'm older.
Well, yeah, and because they're different people than you. That's why it's important for people to have conversations with people who are different from them.
Yeah.
Oh, and maybe even become friends with people who are different from them.
So that's what we can do is have conversations, change the way we think, help others to see different opinions. Traveling, I think, is amazing because I
Yes.
think that when people have never left their own comfort zone, my kids see a lot of times we travel to Mexico quite often and
Mhm,
they see the ritziest parts of Mexico, the Ritz Carlton, all the way to people living in cardboard boxes with
mhm.
tin metal thing as a roof. And my
Yeah.
kids are like, "They're living like that?" And yes, people live like that. We need to acknowledge that we are blessed.
And the fact that there's so many people in our country who don't want to share that with somebody else.
What's up with that?
Yeah, that I don't understand that. I mean, why shouldn't somebody want to live here?
I would lower my standard of living to bring other people up.
Yeah, what, and it's not like you would lower your standards that much. And here's another soapbox. If billionaires lowered their fucking living standards,
What if they
and
just
guess
paid their
what?
taxes?
Well, yeah, that would be a start. Then nobody else would have to worry about shit. Can the billionaires do their part, please? Thank you very much.
They have
That would
so
help
much
a lot.
money, why wouldn't they want to? That's what I don't understand is why
It's
wouldn't you
it's greed.
for what? What can
I,
you possibly spend it on?
I
You
don't
have
know.
everything.
If I were a billionaire, do you know how much good I could do? I mean, damn, I would help all kinds of people. I do think that part of giving is teaching skills. If
Agree.
you have all the skills, but you don't have the money to put a roof over your head, then
Then
damn.
you're never getting anywhere.
Yeah. So there has to be
The
two.
safe and secure housing has to come first.
It's not just let me throw some money at it. There's a whole process that has to happen. Action has to come from all different sides. Again, with the refugees. I mean, there are people who are buying Airbnb reservations so that people have somewhere to stay. I saw a thing online today where there were women in Poland who left a bunch of strollers for mothers coming from Ukraine who didn't have a stroller for their baby. There's
Awesome.
lots of ways that people can do these things.
A stroller would be a huge help.
Yeah,
A huge
yeah.
help. I think one of the encouraging things that we're seeing from this is that people are speaking up all over the world. People are
Mhm,
speaking up, they're coming out, they're doing what they can. It looks like most of the world is saying that this war is not okay, that we
mhm,
need to support these people. My only hope is that in the future, we can see all refugees in a similar light, that these people need our help and let's do what we can do. That's one of the reasons why I give money to Choose Love. And
mhm.
one of the reasons why I give money to Together Rising. They do so much work for refugees on our border. And then Choose Love does so much for refugees in the UK. If all you got is money, give.
And if you don't have time or money, you've got something that you don't use anymore.
This is going to sound weird as all F, but I believe that we could also like energetically send our love out there.
Mhm, mhm.
Can
Yeah,
we hold them in our vision for a better future? Can we send them love?
I think we can, absolutely. Yeah, send love, people. Just
There's so many consequences of war.
and the psychological damage, my God, to people and to the kids. It literally is enough to make you take to your bed. It can be incredibly overwhelming to think about all this. We are citizens of the world and we have to be there for our fellow humans.
You bring up an interesting point. How do you deal with the overwhelm when so much is going on with the world? And
Yeah.
nothing wrong with, how did you put it, taken to the bed? I have
Yeah.
felt that way when we've had the mass shootings in schools where I couldn't do anything. I couldn't
Mhm.
function.
Mhm.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I have to take breaks. I don't turn away forever. I do have to protect myself. I have to
Mm.
protect my own sanity and my own heart in all of this because I am a very tender-hearted person. I have to block it out for a little bit. I have to let myself sort of calm down and regroup.
Mhm.
And sometimes I have to just completely do a 180 and just watch something like Silly and Stupid or
Mhm.
watch, kitten videos. I'm no good to other people if I become completely overwhelmed. Take care of yourself before your cup gets empty and be in tune enough with yourself to know when your cup is starting to get too low. Know what your tells are. I know what my tells are. And I know when those tells start showing up, I have to take a step back. And sometimes that looks like my day yesterday where I pretty much slept most of the day because I was just mentally exhausted. And did I beat myself up about it? I started to for a second and then I was like, nah, I
Mhm.
can't beat myself up about this.
I have to not listen to the news. I think it's very jaded and it's so hysterical. It's meant to bring up the fear in you. I've even heard some stuff recently.
Mhm.
I'm sure everyone's heard this. They're like, oh, if we get into war, Russia's just going to send the nuclear bombs and life is over. I choose not to go that far.
Yeah.
I choose to stay here. And anytime I hear something like that, I turn it off. I'm just
Yeah.
not going to entertain that right now.
And
Go ahead.
you're a runner too. Do you feel like having that practice already in place, do you feel that that kind of helps give you some buffer?
Yeah. What I've done in the last week or so since this whole war broke out, I'm back to listening to music instead of listening to podcasts right now.
Mm.
The music and the rhythm of the running,
Mhm.
there is something about it that's meditative. It calms the mind, it calms the chatter, it brings, at least for me, it brings me
Mhm.
back into a space.
Yeah.
So I've always kind of used exercise in those areas that I have no control of. And quite frankly, this war is just very disappointing. It's
Mhm.
very, very disappointing that here we are just coming off a pandemic.
Yeah,
We've
and we're not even coming off of it. We're still in the thick of it anyway.
Okay, but
Alright.
we've gone through this
Mhm.
collectively, and now we're just gonna go to war? I don't really see good reasons for war, and there's
Mhm.
definitely no good reason for this war.
Not at all. Yeah,
Not
yeah.
for this one.
I want peace. I want people to be safe and happy and cared for. I hope that Putin will just decide that he's just gonna back off. Or, that the Ukrainian people will rise up and make him realize that he wants to back off.
I think they're doing their absolute best to do that.
They are.
And talk about like a national hero, man.
Oh, yeah. Zelensky, I mean, oh
That is
yeah,
a man of character.
absolutely.
It appears to
Oh,
be that he's a pretty stand up leader who's willing to be there with his people and
mhm.
do what's necessary and right. Not
And
a
he's not hiding in a bunker somewhere.
no.
He's actually
Or
there.
Trump would be.
Right? Yeah, in Mar-a-Lago, like hiding behind his fucking golf clubs.
Yeah, maybe Putin's hiding in Mar-a-Lago with Trump.
Oh my god.
Maybe they're
Oh,
hanging out there hiding together.
Maybe.
Well, Raquel, I think it was a really good discussion. Thanks for having it today because it wasn't easy.
Yeah, I think this was a discussion we needed to have. And hopefully, us having this discussion will help other people have the discussion as well. So, good discussion. Thanks everyone for listening today. We will be back with more Madness Cafe next week. You can find us on Instagram at Madness Cafe Podcast or email us at madnesscafepodcast@gmail.com. Bye.